Now that's significant. The Market Research Podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to the show. This is your host, Michael Howard, the Head of Marketing at InfoTools. Today, we're joined once again by Febronia Ruocco, a Global Insights and Analytics Director who has led insights teams and championed the customer for notable FMCG OTC brands like Cadbury Schweppes, Diageo, Heineken, Carlsberg, Heinz, Mars, General Mills, McDonald's, and GSK. Febronia is a certified, multilingual, and dual-accredited executive leadership coach, supporting senior directors and C-suite leaders in the marketing, insight, and MRX industries. Welcome back to the show, Feb.
Hi, Michael. It's great to be back for the third time to spill the tea on a great topic this evening on insights, influence, and impact, which is my big message for the insight industry for 2025.
It sounds very interesting, and this was, I guess, prompted from a LinkedIn post that I saw from you a few weeks ago on this subject, which I think is quite significant. And I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Yeah, I remember you sending me a message. It was on quite a provocative post by me, which was all about nobody cares about your research debrief. And I think the provocation was meant to explain that, of course, our detail and rigor in our research debriefs matter, but they only matter to us because stakeholders expect that rigor. They expect accuracy, they expect good data, but they don't want to hear about that detail. They want to know the outputs. They want to know, so what? What's in it for me? What does this mean for my brand? What does this mean for my commercial plan? How much money is this going to make in my bottom line? So my provocation was we need to stop being so obsessive about the research, do it well, of course, but that's a hygiene factor, and focus more on the commercial impact and message that we give to stakeholders.
So do we need... We can't lose that rigor at all, can we? And particularly with AI that has come along as well, we need to be confident in what we're sharing with our stakeholders, and we need to have that level of rigor and statistical testing and whatnot, just to make sure what we're putting forward is true, accurate, and beneficial for the organisation.
Of course, we need to pay attention to the detail and the rigor. Of course, that goes without saying, but we need to change the communication mindset. We don't need to communicate so much about the research. They expect us to do it well. They pay us to do it well. They hire us with our technical skills to do it well. What they want us to do is help drive the commercial agenda. So be more focused on the story that our stakeholders want to hear, and not, tell them about the great work we do. They know we do that, but they don't want to hear about it. They don't have time or interest or inclination. One or two might, but not everybody.
So what brought this all to mind then?
I think it was the kickoff at the start of the year, when we start to think about our focus and plan and intention for our own goals and development. And I was thinking, in my next role, what's my focus going to be? And it's definitely going to be now with the integration of AI tools, focusing on delivering really powerful, game-changing and winning insight, influencing and challenging the stakeholder C-suite teams and driving that commercial agenda. Making sure that my insight team has a place at the metaphorical table and is able to communicate powerfully, influence, challenge, and courageously communicate how to have commercial impact.
So if we're not talking about research rigor, data points, sample sizes, stat testing, what should we be majoring on?
We should be looking at how we measure ROI, how we mitigate risk, how we deliver more profitable results. So what will an activation drive in terms of revenue growth? And if an activation, and we've tested a piece of it, isn't going to do that, we should be highlighting that is going to be a leaky bucket for the business.
Yeah, I remember someone mentioning once, sometimes market research can be used to not do anything. Sometimes it's better not to act, which can be
Mm.
hard, particularly if you've invested some resource prior to that. But always good to keep in mind.
You've made me think of something as well, which is important with this model. In order to drive insight to influence to impact, you have to be comfortable with discomfort. You have to be comfortable with not being popular, and you have to accept being a truth teller. And, sometimes truth tellers can become scapegoats. So we have to be careful as well, because sometimes the message we're relaying might be something the business doesn't want to hear. But if you think that, investment in a factory or assets to build product pipelines uh, isn't going to work because the data tells you that, customer doesn't like the product concept, you've got to shout out. You've got to be brave and courageous. So you've got to influence. And that's what I mean by being a good communicator and not being afraid to raise your head above the parapet if you have to.
So let's have a look at those 3 I's and why they're important, starting with insight.
Yeah, there's still lots of discussion around insight and still confusion that data is insight. Data points are not insights. They lead to insights, and recommendations from debriefs can include insights, but they don't always. So we get to insights through working holistically across a number of data sets and unearthing the hidden truths about customer behavior that unlock opportunities for growth. The industry really needs to get clarity on this difference between data, research, and insight, because they're different things.
No, that's very true. And there's always been a lot of data, but there's even more now. There's even more information out there now, which is data that's organized, but it's almost become that information has become like data. How we need help to sort of
to manage it all.
To manage and make sense of it all as well. Like when you've got so much out there, it's hard just to focus on what's really important.
And that's why it's key to be clear on the strategic questions, the priorities, the key customer questions you need answering. There are so many big data sets across the business, and all the social media listening tools, the social platform feedback, the analytics, customer service feedback, customer satisfaction. I mean, the list goes on and on, EPOS data, and we should really be able to integrate and work across all of this, as well as primary research and as well as all the knowledge repositories. So AI offers great tools to be able to harness and cut through that, but we still need to be on top of the prompts, the right questions, and really digging for those golden bullets that are going to drive commercial impact.
Multi-methodology, mixed method is key. And if we're going to have more time on our hands because some things have been taken off our plate, we've got more methods that we can rely on to bring together, to mesh, to come up with those really interesting insights that weren't in plain sight.
Well, I think we're able now to really put critical thinking into strategic briefs. And because of all this knowledge that we can refine and mine, we can challenge briefs much earlier by saying, look, we've looked at this in the past and we know that doesn't work. We need to refine these points on a brief. So you can have input at really early and pivotal stages across a pipeline of work and have superb impacts. So it doesn't diminish the value we bring. It means we up level the value to really being those great strategic partners for the key marketing stakeholders. Gives us more voice if we're not afraid to speak. If we're able to speak out and challenge and influence, it's a great opportunity to have a seat at the strategic table.
That's right, which is a great segue into the second of the 3 I's, influence. What exactly do you mean by influence? And to whom are you referring?
Yeah, we were talking before we kicked off the podcast about another podcast you did with Tom, was it?
Tom Johnson, yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and he made some great points. Would you like to just mention what he he said?
Sure. So he's made a point in his career to always know the stakeholders around his business. So the CFO is an important one, for instance, to understand what is important to him or her, that role, to then be able to, I guess, address and approach his business with with that all in mind. And when he's got a financial understanding of the business, he can then translate that through the work that he does. And that's applicable to with the CMO, with the CFO as well, all of the various different roles in the business.
I really love that. And it reminded me of a discussion I had with Susan Patoyan last year on her All About Impact podcast, where we talked about really knowing the C-suite, really knowing the different objectives of the CMO, the CFO, and the CEO, because sometimes they're not always aligned. And also in different corporate structures, sometimes now the CFO has more traction than the CMO because it's an equity-backed business. So really knowing where the power is held, who has the biggest influencing decision-making power, and being able to talk to them and storytell in a language that makes sense to them is incredibly powerful and raises the profile of Insight no end.
I mean, the insight professional has always been focused on understanding the consumer, and there's always been talk about who owns the customer, who owns the consumer within an organization, but everyone needs to, because an organization won't survive or exist without consumers, without customers. So insights professionals, because of who they are key to helping the rest of the business understand what's important to its customers, etc. So influencing is really important.
I love that, but I challenge you back, Michael, and say today it's changed. Everybody owns the customer, but everybody has to own the P&L. Everybody
Yes.
has to be aware of the numbers. And if you are spending time on priorities that are not going to drive the bottom line, you're wasting your time. You're not bringing commercial value to the business. And this is something, an area. In some of my roles, I've had bosses who were very articulate about this, and I was very grateful for that learning at those points in my career. But, in any team that I lead today, I make it very clear that individuals need to be on top of the commercial objectives. They need to be on top of the marketing plan, and they need to prioritize, and they need to stay close to it because it changes after every C-suite meeting. So stakeholders can pivot. So you need to be on top of any changes, and also macroeconomics and what's happening with interest rates, what's happening with governments, budgets, all the impact on the numbers, what's happening globally. So you need to really be fiscally aware.
Absolutely. Now, AI offers efficient and expedient ways to handle tasks. You could argue freeing us up to influence more and have more commercial impact. What kind of tasks are you seeing that AI will take over or has been taking over? And from an influencing perspective, what will there be for insights professionals to do?
I think it's a really interesting time, and there are so many tools out there. But from basic organizing yourself, admin, there's lots of tools that help manage diaries, bookings, things like that. So a lot of manual work is taken out of that. The ability to craft and curate and write documents so you can really write briefs, proposals, things like that much more quickly. Of course, you need to add critical thinking, but you can build your template framework and then enhance it, saving quite a lot of time. And the tools that are able to harness mine data are mind-blowing. So, they can harness across big data sets, primary research, knowledge repositories. I mean, I remember the days where we had to manually work through paper reports and data sets, thousands of pages. And to think now that, you can do this using technology that can turn it out in minutes is mind-blowing. Of course, we need to check it. We need to lead the prompting. We need to check the LLMs, that the patterns make sense. So our the profile of our work is raised. It's much more strategic, it's much more consultative. So I see this as really opening up opportunities for insight and research professionals to take much more of a bigger role, a bigger consultative and a bigger management role.
I really liked one of our former podcast guests, Vivian Ming. She said that you should use AI to make your job harder. And when I first heard that, I was like, what do you mean by that? But she was saying that you should be using it to challenge yourself, to see what you're missing from your particular position, add in, like, share with it what you're doing, and ask it, like, what are the gaps? What's missing? How can I make this better? So you might be using it to get to a place quickly, take out some manual tasks, but then use it to challenge yourself and think harder about it, to get to those more difficult, heavy lifting aspects of your job, and the work will be better as a result of it.
I love that, and I concur with that completely. It's to drive better excellence. And I think as well, if you use the prompts cleverly, you can prompt to say, what kind of challenges can I expect from my stakeholders? So you can preempt, difficulties that you might be faced with down the line. I think it's really interesting. And also in innovation pipeline work and tech flows like that, you can actually put the customer and human critical thinking back into the heart of the project, because you've got more time to do that and bring in greater research expertise, human to human. So I think it offers lots of great opportunities and possibilities. I'm actually writing an article for Research Live at the moment on putting the human in the center of the AI workflows.
Well, what I like thinking of it, some people say you should have AI, a human in the loop. So what they mean by that is, by all means use AI, but have someone check it. I think it should be flipped, where you should have AI in the loop. So it puts you first, but it just means that you're checking AI, it's doing its thing, but it's bringing it back to you, and you're still the driver of it.
I see AI as reporting into the human. The human is the boss of the AI. So for me, I don't have this fear that AI is going to take our jobs. I think we'll see some jigging around of structures until businesses come to terms that AI won't work, or it won't deliver what the accuracy you need without the human management of it. So I think it's an exciting time for us to level up with the tech as well, if you're interested or inclined in that way. I did a course on it last year just to get some rudimentary basic skills. And it when you realize and get your head around the capacity that it has and what it can do for you, it's incredible.
That's right. Very true. So lastly, there's impact from your three eyes.
Yeah, I mean, once you've got to challenging and being bold and courageous in meetings and influencing the agenda, you can then have commercial impact. And you can only have commercial impact if you start talking in fiscal language. So if we launch this this product based on the research recommendations and learnings and insights, we can expect X incremental growth and revenue. So we need to start having that impact, but also mitigating risks. So when things don't work, we have to say, if we go ahead with this, we're going to lose X pounds, and it's going to impact the profitability negatively. So you have to be bold and courageous, and also be prepared to not be popular when that happens.
That's very true. So I guess you could say the chicken or the egg, which came first. You got insight, impact, influence.
Insight, influence, impact.
Yes. Yes. So if we don't have these, so this system of this approach embedded in our organizations, how should we start?
Well, I think we need to start with making sure we have good, rigorous data and research and that it's being mined to unearth those valuable, powerful insights. So once we define and unearth the insights that are going to really show us what behavioral change we can influence to have that commercial impact, that's a great place to start. The influencing, building that commercial language and confidence in being a good communicator in those senior meetings, that takes a bit of time and practice. And individuals might find they need a bit of help from a mentor or a coach to get to that level of confidence. But once they're, conversant in the key objectives of the stakeholders, it becomes much easier and able to partner and influence in that way. And then it kind of runs more smoothly. You're unearthing great insights, you're talking about the impact on the business, and then the business decides to make those decisions that will deliver the commercial impact. So it's all a bit of a circular wheel in a way. So start at the beginning, start on getting great insight, and then talking about it, influencing, and it will then deliver the impact you desire.
Mm. Well, thinking on the whole coaching side of things, organizations all have training and development budgets these days, and they can be used on various things. And something like being better at influencing would obviously be a really good use of that budget, wouldn't it? Because you're then able to get better impact and make those insights actually do something within the organization.
Absolutely. And as a coach, an executive leadership coach and mentor, I'm also offering a specific insight, influence, impact training. I'm offering it at an individual level at the moment because individuals are from different corporate cultures, have different levels of confidentiality that they're working with. I don't really see doing trainings with groups with people from different companies working because of that. So I focused it in on individuals, a bespoke 3-hour, 3-session training to help get them started in, upskilling in those 3 areas. But organizations can happily contact me as well to talk about leadership training, which is focused around influence and impact.
Mm. So how would you sum up the 3 I's?
I would summarize them as being a nice little framework to be thinking of, whether you're client side or agency side, in terms of the value you want to be bringing to your business. So you want to be delivering insights to your stakeholders or clients if you're agency side. You want to be influencing, you want to be a challenger. You're closest to the data. So you want to be communicating what you're seeing, the patterns that you're seeing, the work you're integrating from AI. You're best placed to communicate the effects of that and the power of that. And therefore, you can have a seat at the commercial table where those commercial decisions, go or no go, are decided. And we should be inputting into that.
Very true. I guess there's also some people might be in that position where they're trying to justify existence, which is not a nice way to or position to be in. In what ways have you seen this being executed well, where insights teams have had embedded themselves positively into the organizations?
Throughout my career, I've worked in different cultures where I've seen different levels of this. So I've worked in organizations where this is truly embedded and the insights function really drives the marketing strategy. In some cases, we had the power to pull activation. In one of the roles I had, I remember stopping an ad because it wasn't worthy of going live. Now, that was a very insight-centric planning organization. I've seen organizations that are trying to implement this where, the intentions are good, but the budgets are held fiercely by the marketeers. And if they're going to make a decision on a retail activation or research, you know which way they're going to go. So there you have to, start small and build carefully, building those partnerships, building your influencing skills and getting traction slowly. And I've seen organizations that just want execution. They just want insight research to be on a needs basis, delivering, answers to questions that they have. So you can only work with as far as your culture will allow. But if you want to be a change maker and you want to really build an insight function that raise the profile, you have to then think of ways of winning against the system, but doing it slowly and credibly.
So what hope would you give to those that are in that position, that are at the start of that journey and want to see it embedded well?
I would say be true to the data. Be true to what the data is telling you. Be brave enough to communicate it. Be accepting that your challenge might be rejected, but just keep going. Build credibility so people know you're a trustworthy person when it comes to those big critical data questions.
Mm. Yeah, and one thing that someone said to me once is keep be persistent. So keep saying the right things over, and you may have to just go on a way that you don't necessarily agree with. But if you are persistent and you keep delivering and communicating clearly over time, hopefully people will see that that coaching, that value, and then be won over, I guess.
Yeah, some of the feedback I've had over the years and recently is she's firm, but she's fair. But
Yeah.
also, she will tell you how it is, but she'll do it in a good, respectful way.
Mm.
So, you want to be in alignment with yourself, with your own integrity and values, but you don't want to be condescending or patronizing or offensive to another person who's working really hard on a project. And marketeers today, they do work extraordinarily hard. They're doing lots of stuff. So you have to be mindful of the way they're going to receive your message. So that's why I keep saying build great partnerships, build trust relationships. And that's the bit that takes time because you're not going to get someone's belief in you overnight. It's going to take time for them to see that your intent is positive and that you're working with them to drive excellence. You want them to win. I had a boss once who said, Insight's role is to make others win. And it's so true. It's a kind of servant leadership mentality. But if you keep that in mind, that you're wanting them to win and you come across in that way, you're going to have a lot more traction.
Mm. And it does mean that you're not always going to get the accolades either, but you know yourself the role that you played in it.
Yeah, and the way I also worked was getting all my agencies to work together collaboratively with stakeholders on site, working as one big team and sort of holistically mining across different data sets from different suppliers. Now, in order to be able to do that, you need to have a loss of ego. You need to be able to let go and you need to be able to let other people take the credit as well. But when you do it, the exponential value is incredible. The ROI is incredible, and the whole marketing team, marketing director sees it, live on site.
No, it's a very good point, and hopefully, if you can get that involved, that partnership, that smooth running, then it can set up really good, I guess, framework and precedents for the future as well.
Well, we've seen that model, develop more, as things go in-house. It's like having your own in-house agency working together. So, the speed, the efficiencies, the gains, because everybody is briefed, everybody's knowledgeable, everybody has access to everything on the knowledge repositories. You save a lot of time.
No, it's a very good. So, Febronia, any final words on the matter of insight, influence, and impact before we close?
I loved your question on how people can start. And I think whether you're starting off on the agency side or client side, if you keep those three words in mind and just kind of test yourself, am I delivering insight? Am I influencing clients and stakeholders? Is my work having a commercial impact? It's a good checklist to kind of monitor your own development and performance. And like you said as well, keep going, keep being persistent, keep upping the level, keep communicating and keep growing.
No, thank you for sharing, and thank you for joining us on the show again. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. And can I just mention, anybody who's interested in the Insight, Influence, Impact training, please send me a DM on LinkedIn.
Absolutely, and I'll put a note in the show notes as well for anyone that is interested too.
Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome. And thank you to those who have listened in today as well. If you have liked what you've heard, feel free to reach out to Febronia. We'd also be grateful if you subscribe to the podcast, left a review, and shared it with others as well. I'm sure there's some great little nuggets in there for your peers too. So until next time, thanks for listening to Now That's Significant.
Thank you. Bye-bye.